Would you like to take years off of the learning curve of how to make amazing pots? Do you want to know the secrets that every master potter won't tell you? Are you tired of throwing mediocre pots? Are you ready to become the best potter that you know? Do you want to learn about the tools that can make you a master overnight? What are the glaze recipes that will make everything you fire sell immediately? If you've come here looking for the answers to all those questions and more, you came to the wrong place. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to Matthew Kelly Pottery on YouTube. I hope you are doing well. And yes, I just happened to be watching YouTube this morning and had one of those ads about, the most amazing natural food supplements that you could ever take, and they spend 5 minutes, to lead you up to tell you that they're selling you a supplement. Not that that's probably a bad supplement, but it just annoys the snot out of me. And I was in the middle of throwing a pot when the ad came on, so I couldn't hit the button, and so I listened to the whole thing, or at least most of it. Anyway, what we're going to do today is throw some jugs that I'm most likely going to turn into face jugs for my next wood firing, which is coming up very soon. But that's what I'm making this morning, and I thought I would bring you along to just go through some tips and just little thoughts as I'm throwing a couple jugs, because I know that is a hard form for a lot of people to do, as far as to make a form that's bulbous and then closes in at the top, and I know we've probably covered a little bit of that before. But like I said, that's what I'm working on today, so I thought I would bring you along, and just having a little fun here at the beginning. But either way, let's go. Alright, here we are at the wheel, and yes, I'm still laughing at myself, so yeah. It's just halfway laughing at the ad that I saw, and halfway laughing at myself just for making that clip. But hey, I gotta have fun sometimes, and I'm out here by myself just laughing at myself. And so sometimes I wonder if I'm actually sane or not, but either way, I guess at least I can say I'm comfortable talking and laughing at myself and laughing in front of a camera when nobody's actually here. So what I have is 3-pound clay balls. I've made a couple jugs already this morning because I was getting to the end of throwing larger pieces. I've thrown everything from a 50 or 60 pound jar all the way down to just some 2 or 3 pound vases. And now this week and next week I'm going to be making mostly smaller things like coffee mugs, tumblers, small bowls, all those kinds of smaller things that don't take very long to dry. That's kind of how I work my cycle of making pots for my gas or my wood kiln. And so today I was thinking, oh, I really need some face jugs because I have like no face jugs, especially wood-fired ones. And so I might have one that's an older one that I have still for sale, but other than that, all the ones I fired in my last wood firing all sold. And so I was thinking, man, I really need to make some. So I'm like, today's the day that I need to make the jugs so that I can put the faces on them like tomorrow, and they have time to dry, and then I can get on to the other smaller things I need to make. So anyway, all that to say, we've got some 3-pound clay balls here to make jugs. I'll be using my square bats. And one of the things I like to do, or I can do if I'm going to be making taller things, a lot of times I'll take a little bit of slip that's in my splash pan around my wheel and put it underneath my bat, and that will help the bat stick to the wheel. If your bat pins are loose at all, which mine are not very loose, but if you go to pull up a whole lot of clay while throwing something, especially if you have a little bit stiffer clay, it can actually lift up on that bat. And if you put a little bit of that slip under that bat, it can make a mess later, but it will help the bat stick to the wheel and not lift up as you're throwing. I've done that before, lifted it up and it go flying off the wheel, and that's no fun. So, all right, like I said, I've got 3-pound clay balls here. I just measured them 3 inches based on the size of the pug that comes out of the end of my pug mill. And we'll get started here. The other reason I decided to throw jugs today is because I had a little bit of clay that was stiffened up a little bit, and that was mainly because it was clay that I had left sitting out for a day or two that was really wet, and I let it sit out and get stiffened up so that I could make some nicer shapes. If clay is too soft, it just won't support itself, and so it helps to stiffen it up a bit. So first tip on making something like this that has maybe a bulbous shape with a closed-in top is to use a little bit stiffer clay. You don't want to get the clay too stiff that it's hard to center and pull, but it definitely will be an advantage to you if you use stiffer rather than softer clay. One of the things I really want to focus on is not pulling too much of the clay out of the top portion of this. I am going to pull it every time that I pull. I'm going to pull all the way through, but I'm going to be pinching more at the bottom and then releasing some of the pressure as I get near the top so that I can leave some of that extra clay so that I have something to work with as I go to close in the top. You don't want it to be too thin, because then it makes the clay buckle very easily. I'm sure most of you, if you're potters, you have experienced that at one time or another. Making sure that it's centered really well and that it stays centered while you're working with it, and then leaving enough clay there that it can support itself while you're closing it in. Those are the main factors of what help close in the top of a form like this. I'm also going to try to pull a fairly skinny cylinder so that as I'm doing this, I don't have as far to squeeze in the top. I can always push the belly out and leave the top small. That's easier to do than to make a really wide cylinder and then try to pull in the top. So I guess that's another tip there for making anything like this. So that's pulled pretty well, but I know there's more clay in the bottom still, so I'm going to do one more pull. I'm probably not going to pull any with much pressure for this top, like 3 inches or so, but I'm going to get back down there to the bottom and get more of that clay out of the bottom so that it's not heavy. And you can see with that pull also I started shaping just a little bit, because I might as well, if I'm doing that, I might as well pull out a little bit and help me with my shape. Another thing I think that a lot of people give themselves problems with is if they try to shape too much at one time. Instead of gradually shaping, they'll try to push too far too soon, and that can cause problems. You saw a little bit of a wobble showing up there. That there's a little bit of a thinner spot right in that area there, and so I want to, one of the things that will help something like that is to have a consistent, smooth form, and that gives it structure and gives it some strength to hold itself up, even if it has a little bit of a thinner spot there. So I have to keep that in mind as I'm making the shape, to watch out for that little area there and keep a consistent curve going through that area. You also want to make sure that you don't bring that shoulder up too high, because then you're limiting how much clay you have to work with here on the top to actually taper that in as well. And we'll change camera angles here in a minute, and we'll go through the further steps and tips on actually making this top where you can see my hands closer up and from the other side. Once again, this is one of those things that you have to do gradually. You can't just try to pinch the whole thing in at one time. You will cause yourself major problems by trying to do that. And probably not be very happy with the end result. Okay, here we are back at the top after we have the bottom thrown to where we want it. I've cleaned all the water off mainly the bottom here and out of the inside. So what I'm actually going to do is take my sponge and just wet this top portion here so that I don't drip water all the way down the pot, because I don't want to add any more water than I have to. Then I'm going to make sure my hands are wet, and I'm actually going to I usually take this hand on this side and kind of pinch it, and then I use my fingers on these two fingers on this side, or three fingers, and just kind of help pinch in like that. That was a little rough start there, but I don't try to do too much at one time, like I said. So pinch in a little bit, and then I usually come in and I actually pull that a little bit. Kind of helps even it out, and and that way it doesn't get too thick also. And I'm always working, one of the areas I'm always focused on is this area right here, kind of right below where I start pinching it in, because I don't want that to end up being a sharp, I don't want it to be a weak point in the shape. And also, as I get this closed in, I'm not going to be able to get back down in here and really work on making that rounded. So I want to work on keeping that shape rounded as I do. So a lot of times you'll see me work on this area right here as I'm pinching in. So now I'm going to add water again. Pretty much the same thing. Kind of pinching in and pulling up. And it's gonna, most times, 9 times out of 10, or probably 99 times out of 100, it's gonna wobble when you do that. Every once in a while I'll pinch one in like that and it doesn't wobble, and I don't have to cut it off. That last one I made, I may not have had to cut off, but I was like, you know what, it's got just a slight wobble, and I'm gonna cut it off. And I like to go ahead and get rid of that as long as I have enough extra clay to still work with. Get rid of that so it's not affecting me as I continue to pinch in and pull up. Okay. I'm pretty much just doing a pull there with my fingertip. There's enough clay there, and it's supported, like I said, it's supported by the shape that's down here, because there's no sharp angles. It's kind of a consistent form, which gives it structural integrity. Alright, I'm going to do one more pinch in right there at the neck and pull up. But like I said, I don't want any more water any farther down than I'm going to be pinching in, because then I'm just introducing more water and making weak spots. And yeah, it's going to expose a little bit more of a wobble because that was already there from the early pinch in. And so then we still got enough clay there that I can cut that off, and I still have enough to work with. I'm also careful, right there it happened, water dripped off my hand as I was doing that. I'm also very careful about that because I don't want that water causing problems either. And it may not have, but I'm just I'm a little overly cautious, especially about making jugs like this. There are times that it's just like, you know what, it's better to be safe than sorry. So, and I do different kinds of tops on these, just whatever I feel like making at the time. And a lot of them I've been putting these little grooves in the neck because I think it just adds some texture. I'm just using the back end of my needle tool to do these grooves. Alright, and one more cleanup down the side, and I also get to look at the shape and see if there's any little bit of I need to clean up as I'm doing that, or make sure the bat's cleaned up well. And there we go. Got one more 3-pound clay ball, and we'll call it a day. Well, we'll call it a day for this video, that is. One quick tip there, if you don't already, I use a needle tool when I trim the top. You should always wet the top before you run that needle tool in there, and that will allow the needle tool to glide in there more easily. And then it'll also create a water line in there that will help separate the piece that you're cutting off from the rest of it so it doesn't stick. That's something that will really help you trim the top of something as you're throwing it. I was trying to be mostly quiet for the end of this one so you could just watch and just learn without me blabbering on, but I thought of that, and I thought that'd be something worthwhile sharing right there, because that's something that I have told people before and they were like, oh, I never thought of that. So that one's got a little bit of a wobble to it, but not enough that it's going to bother me. And I'm going to put some lines in the neck of this one here. Alright, there are 6 3-pound jugs. I don't know if I'll put faces on all of them. That kind of depends on the time that I have in the next couple days to put faces on them, but I'd like to if I can, because the face jugs have sold well recently, and I enjoy making them. I enjoy making happy face jugs, and you can probably tell that by all the face mugs I've made. But that's another thing on the list that I'd really like to make for this wood firing is face mugs, because those have gotten a lot of views and a lot of comments on social media, so it's definitely something else that I would like to make. I have a lot of mugs to make in general, and then the face mugs definitely take some time. Take probably as much time as a larger face jug like this, because it's such a small area to work with. But either way, I really hope these tips helped you, and I will say that not all joking aside, the best tips that I can give you for making pottery in general is really 3 steps is all it is. It's trying, and then failing, which will inevitably happen, and then adjusting when you fail, and then just doing those 3 things, I don't know, let's say 100,000 times. And I laugh, but I'm really not joking, because that's pretty much what I've done. And I think if you have some talent, which I believe God-given talent that I had for art in general, but then if you take and apply that much effort, that will help you develop a skill, and those 2 combined are really just amazing. If you combine skill and talent, and if you have a passion for what it is that you're doing, then pretty much the sky's the limit, and you can really do whatever you want with whatever skill set that you're developing and whatever your passion is. So anyway, thank you guys as always for being here. I hope, like I said, I hope this helped you. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, any questions, comments, leave them down below. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for being here. Bye.